Good morning. Morning, everybody. Hi, guys. Welcome to Tea Time. Welcome to Tea Time. How are you guys doing? Hey there, TikTokers. What's up? See who's going to jump on today. You guys had a little bit more time this morning because let me tell you, my day has, it started off slow and then it just kind of went south. I don't know. You ever have those mornings where it starts off with this kind of easy flow, especially when you're like me and you're all about the ease. Starts off slow, feels kind of easy, and then it's like, oh my gosh, it's 8:30, and then you sit down, and then the internet's not working, and so I'm actively centering myself, and it's one of the things that usually when I'm doing a speaking engagement, no matter where I'm speaking, it could be if I'm in a professional setting, it could be if I'm in a boardroom and I have a group of people that I'm presenting to, as long as it is as my stage, so to speak, I like to I like to ask people to come to center, which is just taking a moment and just gathering yourself. Sometimes it involves breathing. Sometimes it's just like put your hands in your lap kind of vibe. Sometimes I ask people to close their eyes for 5 seconds. But just to move from the running around and doing and crazy madness up and down to then step into a space where you can hold a vibe. That's I like to make a transition. I don't want to just run in. And I actually find that when I get out of my head about taking the time to just pause, it's really helpful. It makes such a difference. It shifts your energy in such a powerful way, you know. So, morning. How is everybody? I'm actually really well. A lot of different thoughts and emotions running through my mind. So, my emotional being very active this morning. And usually for days like this, I prefer not to go live, but it's actually the perfect time to go live when you're teaching mindset transformation and life transformation and manifestation. Because what happens is that you have a lot of teachers that they only teach when them feel good or when things up and they're doing great. And I don't know that that actually gets the point across. The whole idea is that we are on a life journey. And so for me to be an authentic teacher, I have if I have a live show on a Saturday morning and I have not said to my community, hey guys, I'm not coming today, but if I'm gonna show up, if me not feel good, I have to show up in a feel bad state, in a miserable, in a whatever, right? And it's good for me too, because then I literally get to sit in this feeling and have to just keep on keeping on. Because it's not every day you get up and you just feel nice. No. For some of y'all, you get up and most days you feel like, oh, why I gotta be going to work? Why I gotta be, so that's real life. So this morning I'm managing a whole heap of things, a whole heap of mind stuff. My mind is just extraordinarily active, a lot of thoughts. And I'm also managing a lot of emotional upheaval, like just between sadness and disappointment and feeling like in my head, I have some blaming going on. Like there's just a lot of things I'm observing, right? There's a lot of things I'm observing, guys, about myself that doesn't make me feel like my usual, pump up. But we're still going to the vibes. We're still going to have a thing. We'll have a tea. That's one of the reasons why I'm kind of feel a little off this morning. Guess what happened now? You guys know I love my tea. On a know the show name Tea Time. So you know, tea and me have a thing. We have a relationship. Okay? My granny, my Jamaican grandmother that come from St. Mary that raised me most of my young life, she raised me with tea first thing in the morning. And this morning, I was making my Indian tea. And guys, can I tell you? I realized that I needed to be on the camera. I realized, oh my gosh, I've run out of time and my tea isn't ready. So what Stacey do? Stacey start to rush, because instead of just being with it and being like, okay, it's fine, just take your time, step by step. No, Stacey never listened to that part of the head. Stacey was like, no, let me just get it in the teapot. I think I spilled about 2 cups of tea trying to get the tea into the teapot. So some of vex, because that's 2 good cup of tea when I could have drink later. What are you guys drinking today? What are you guys drinking this morning? I have my Indian masala chai with coriander and ginger that I make from scratch. That's what I'm making this morning. Then catch the drama now. I make the tea, and I usually use fresh ginger. Like, I will chop up the fresh ginger, but the ginger chopping part take a lot of time. So here Stacey hot now. So Stacey got her helper. I got my home support chef. I got her to dice up some ginger for me, right? But I never know that ginger could spoil. Like, I know that ginger goes bad if it's sat in a basket and it just sitting there. Maybe me not come from Jamaica country enough. Me don't know. But I thought that since you use ginger, and this is a very logical thought, guys, since you use ginger to preserve things, right? You put ginger in a drinks and them things to preserve it. I figure that if we chop it up and put it in the fridge, the ginger will preserve itself. Anyway, I was wrong. So this morning, especially in my rush state, because I want to get on to tea time with good time, I run in now and I go and I take out the bag of ginger that has been in the refrigerator, and I've been using it in a little at a time. And when I go and I scoop out the thing and I open the bag, it smelled like cheese. So now I felt a little trick happened, because I actually use Ziploc bags sometimes. I use Ziploc bags sometimes to put like my leftover Parmesan. So if I'm using like Parmesan cheese and I put it in the Ziploc bag, guys, when we open the bag with the ginger, the bag of ginger smell like cheese. I mean, I think ginger is supposed to smell like cheese. Oh my God. Anyway, long story short, we don't give it a long version already, but whatever. It's a live stream, guys. You got to go with the journey. Anyway, what ended up happening is that the ginger did spoil. And I learned that just by putting ginger in the refrigerator, chopping it up and putting it does not preserve itself. So that's a lesson, a TikTok lesson. Okay? Chopping up ginger and putting it in the refrigerator, it does not preserve itself. Maybe if I put it in the freezer. So what I do now, I draw for the Kendall ginger tea bag, the dried thing. So this morning is an experiment because I've never tried this before. So I don't actually know what it tastes like, but we have in it this morning. I put the Kendall ginger powder, and that's what we're doing. So that's what I'm drinking. I'm drinking Indian chai tea made today with coriander and ginger powder from Kendall ginger people. I think them here in Jamaica. Now, today we are going to talk about the power of perception. And it is going to be such a mind-blowing conversation, guys, because it really, when I realized that my perception about one thing in particular shifted, I started to pay attention. And yes, I'm holding my spoon. I started to pay attention to where else in my life I was missing out on the power of perception. Okay, so this morning we're going to talk about how you could potentially be missing out on the power of perception. We're going to fix it this morning. We're going to figure out what you could be missing out on and how you actually solve this potential gap in your life, right? And it's a simple solution. It's one that I have taught before and you can probably use it, but we're going to go over it again this morning. Okay. So if you've been watching Tea Time or any of my lives for a while, you might know that I was often challenged by the robot taxi drivers. And when I say often challenged, what I mean by that is would have vex when we're on the road and the taxi man them a drive and them a cut me off and them a squeezing and them a blow them horn beep 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 beep. I mean, oh my gosh. No, what is funny, guys, is I realize that I am not the only person that has a challenge with the Jamaican taxi drivers. And I'm talking the robot taxis in particular. For those of you who are part of my community, because I do have quite a few of you that are from the US, because I lived in the US for most of my life. For those of you that are part of my community but don't live in Jamaica, especially either Kingston or Montego Bay, oh, remember me tell you, say, the mobile robot taxi driver them are going to take it to you now. Ooh. If you're a part of my community and you're not someone that has to integrate with them, then you may not understand how jarring it can be sometimes to have to navigate these taxi drivers, right? So what will happen, like for me and many of you that are a part of this community, you'll be driving along, usually during rush hour, especially bad. Oh gosh, rush hour being in Kingston, anytime between 7:30 a.m. and 10 a.m. And then again, anytime between 11:30 a.m. and 2:30 p.m. And then again between 3 p.m. and 7 p.m. So in Kingston, you might as well say all time, all of the morning, all of the, just all day. Okay. Mobile, you probably have a similar thing. But TikTok, really bad during rush hour. That first time of the morning and in the afternoon and lunchtime, yeah. You're driving along and then you literally just see somebody swerving in front of you. Then just come from out of nowhere behind you and swerving in front of you and you have to dip and sometimes you have to break up and it's a robot taxi driver. Sometimes you're driving along and they're in front of you and then you have to draw your brakes suddenly because they just stop. Letting in a passenger. Another time you're driving and then to overtake you, drive in front of you, then stop, and then you decide that you're going to go around and you see somebody running from across the street to come into the taxi and you almost lick them down. Robot taxi driver. So you guys, you know. If you know, you know. Right? If you know, you know. So one of the things that started to happen to me was that I would get really stressed out by the taxi drivers. And when I say stressed out, you know what I mean by that is I would get so reactive. And reactive is a situation where when you are you're experiencing something and it upsets you, and then it's like you just can't let it go. Let's say you're going to work and you encounter this experience and you're driving to work, and after the experience, you're still upset from having had the experience. Like it's literally, you are carrying now the stress of encountering this robot taxi. You're literally carrying it, beyond the taxi driver. And you reach at work and you have to talk about it. And you have to tell your colleagues and your boss and your this and your that. And you're literally just like in this ongoing loop of the feeling that you got, the feeling of upset about this taxi driver. Guys, it's so bad in Jamaica, which is why I had to do this. I had to do this talk. I don't know what it is about in Jamaica and the discipline thing and it. Another thing that starts to happen is that you'll be driving on a two-way street and you will see the taxi drivers one by one driving past you, going in the same direction. Is the opposite traffic supposed to be coming, But they're literally one by one, them jump on like a train and they're driving on the opposite side of the road, and you will see the other drivers coming down stressed out, frustrated, annoyed, just mad. And I took a class, you see, I took a class with some other Jamaican people to learn about mindfulness, right? I know I don't pour my tea yet, you know. I took a class with some other Jamaican people where we were talking about mindfulness and stuff like that. And somehow the conversation started about robot taxi drivers. Honey is my thing. And can I tell you guys, I thought that they would trigger me. I mean, when you hear what the people them want to do to the taxi man them, it was just fascinating. And so I was like, boy, you know, if my perception had not shifted, I would have been chiming right in with them about, you know, the broken them foot and the cutting them off. At one point, I was thinking maybe if I had a car, like, you know, Mad Max, where you can like press a button, or 007, you can press a button and like the machine guns just come out on the side of the car and it just and you start to just take out the people them on the side. Like I've had all kind of crazy thoughts about these robot taxi drivers. And then when I got into the class, I realized that it's not just me managing the suffering. And you know what make it worse? People get upset because a lot of the taxis in Jamaica are owned by policemen. And therefore the regulations behind getting any kind of discipline for the taxis is not the highest. Let me take a sip of tea after saying that. Now, despite all of this, and despite all of the upset and everything else, my perception and my trigger response to the taxi drivers completely shifted after I went to India. And that is when I learned about the power of perception. When I say I learned about it, you know, it's like I understood in concept, you know, how you perceive things is your reality, etc. But you see, when I went to India, guys, the whole thing just blew up for me. Like I really got it clear that, my gosh, maybe I don't have to be as reactive about the drivers. I can just manage my energy because it's the only thing that I can control. And I just need to let the taxi drivers be themselves. I mean, guys, it can be really serious. And I'm using this example primarily because of the class that I took and the responses, realizing that so many people suffer from this issue of managing what appears to be carelessness, indiscipline, just unsafe, just, you know, just that whole thing. I just completely shifted my perception. And so now I observe myself being better at responding to how these taxi drivers show up. So let me explain. Let me explain. When I went to India, we arrived early in the morning, like 5 a.m. So there wasn't any whole heap of traffic, but there were actually, when I got to the airport, it was like, by the time we started driving and stuff on it, we were going to the place where we were doing the silent retreat. It was far. So there was a lot of traveling. So it took us like over an hour to get from the airport to the place. So by the time we got there people started to come out on the road, and we ended up, you know, getting into some traffic. And so the silent retreat happened, you know, spent 5 days in silence, whatever. And then now, when we got out of the silent retreat, it was in the middle of the night. So I saw some traffic and, you know, whatever. But you see, the next morning now, when I was on my way to do my leadership talk, guys, the traffic And the way that driving is done in India, I was literally like this in the seat. When I say my shoulder them shrunk up, my hand them hold on the seat, me I hold on pan honey boo hand like literally like some want to squeeze the bones them out in flesh. Because in India, the driving of the people is like this, right? The driving of the people is like this. There is just a whole bunch of, it's like you'll have, say you have 2 lanes, it's literally 5. Okay? Say you have 2 lanes, it'll literally be 5. And then you'll have persons that are coming up and it's just barely just overlapping, and they're just going. Okay? Ooh, my sound has gone on TikTok. Oh, that's odd. I haven't done anything different. Okay, guys, tell me if you can hear me now. My sound went. I'm not sure why. Not hearing. It's been, oh, something happened. I'm gonna have to go off and come back on. I'm not sure what happened, guys. Going off and coming back on. I think when the car came, something. And no. Okay, guys, so I'm just gonna hop back onto TikTok because for some reason my sound went just now. So I'm gonna have to jump back on. And I was like in the middle of my good story. Anywho, so finally get into India, get into the traffic of India now. And I'm realizing that the way that they actually drive is just slightly more unusual than the way we encounter robot taxis. And this is not just taxis. We're talking about rickshaws, motor rickshaws, which are, they look like, how you'd say, a blend between a bike and a carriage. That's what a rickshaw looks like. So literally, it was like you had the rickshaws, the motorcycles, like bikes with multiple people on them. Like literally, I saw 2-seater bikes with up to like 4 people and a baby on the 2-seater bike. It was insane to observe, right? So you have motorcycle with not just 1 or 2 people, but with 3 or 4 or 5 people on the one motorcycle. You have the auto rickshaws, you have the regular cars, you have trucks, and you have taxis, right? So imagine that's like 5 different types of vehicles, all driving like robot taxis. Imagine that. Horns, everybody blowing them horn all at the same time. Everybody blowing their horn all at the same time. Everybody driving, blowing them horn, switching lanes. And I mean, the first day, I couldn't, it was like too much. The second day, it was kind of like I was getting used to it. And you see, by the 3rd day, I was like, I don't think our robot taxi drivers like are as bad in reality. Or maybe let me not say it that way. Let me put it this way. Even though I had challenges with my robot taxi drivers, there are other countries in the world where it can be 5 times or 10 times as challenging. And it is how you perceive things, is how your mind tell you that this is happening. That's what makes the experience stressful. That's what makes the experience anxiety giving. Like literally, you are the only person that can control how you respond to the drama that they bring. The only person. And it wasn't until I had the experience in India that I was able to kind of shift how I was thinking about the experience I was having in Jamaica. And what's true is that you don't have to go all the way to India or anywhere else. Like, you have something that's happening in your space. You don't have to travel all the way across the world in order for you to figure out that it's how you think about it or how you see it that is making it occur to you in that way. You know what I mean? It's like, it was a real wake up call to me about how my mind was managing everything in my life. And I know that I'm giving the example of the robot taxi, but really and truly, when I came back from India and then subsequently went to that class where I heard how many other people was stressed out, right? How many other people was stressed out by it. It was just insane, you know. And so I had to start thinking about what exactly is it that I can do to help myself with the perception piece. And I see my friends on TikTok telling me that I'm muted again. You guys can't hear me still? Somebody tell me if you can hear me on TikTok. Can you hear me? Hello? Hello, hello. Can you hear me on TikTok? Somebody give me a thumbs up, or because I know I'm talking. Tell me if you can hear me. I saw somebody say you're muted earlier. You guys were saying that at one point you just stopped hearing me altogether. I just want to make sure that you can hear me, because otherwise, like, we might as well just end the live. Like, seriously. All right, so we're gonna keep going. So what I recognize, you see, is that not hearing me. Okay, so you guys definitely aren't hearing. I have no idea why that is. Yeah. Hopefully you can hear me now. Tell me if you can hear me now. And then on YouTube, I saw a thumbs up earlier, so I'm hoping that my thumbs up audience can hear my thumbs up. I'm hoping that my YouTube guys can hear me. Hopefully. So I made one change, and I'm hoping that that can help. If it doesn't, then I'm just going to end the live. It'll be unfortunate, but yes, I see the hearts. Yay! Awesome, awesome, awesome. Okay, excellent. All right. So we were talking about the power of perception, and we're talking about how I learned about it because of this experience with the robot taxi drivers, experiencing it in Jamaica, thinking that this is the worst thing ever. Why we can't have discipline in the taxi driving situation. And then I went to India, and I realized that in India is literally everybody's driving and they're blowing their horns. As a matter of fact, in India, the trucks, like when you see a truck, on the back of the truck, literally on the back of the truck, it says, please blow your horn. The back of the trucks, you will see them say, please blow your horn, or blow horn loud. You literally see that on the back of trucks. So you can imagine that you're driving in India and you're just hearing horns are just blowing. It's literally like when you're in Jamaica and you use I used to hear the horns blowing when I'm at the stoplight, and it used to bother me, because if I'm at the stoplight, and it's not just the taxi drivers do this, if I'm at the stoplight in Jamaica and the light turns to almost green, it not even reached green yet, the light turned to almost green, you can bet that somebody behind me is going to blow them horn. Sometimes I am behind one or two people, and the person behind me start blow them horn. And it used to make me so upset, with a vex. Like, why them can't wait? And you'd hear me start to, talk about it and get upset about it. And then guess what happened? I go India, everybody blowing them horn. Every single person. Beep, 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 beep. You're hearing big horn, little horn. I literally, guys, it took me about 3 days to just be with it. And once I realized that this is a perception thing, this is an experience thing, by the time I got back to Jamaica, you see, when I got to Jamaica, I literally said to Honey Boo, I was like, why is it so quiet? Why is it so quiet? So the power of perception, guys, is that you are the person that controls the way that you experience life around you. And it's not necessarily the easiest concept to practice. It's easy to understand. Like, it's not hard to understand. That's why I chose to talk about it this morning and to have tea with you guys this morning, because it's actually not a hard thing to understand. But the application of it is tricky because your mind is used to being reactive. Your mind is used to being triggered by certain behaviors. So right now, if you're like how I used to be, when you're driving on the road, a robot taxi driver swerve in front of you or open them door and somebody start run across the street, or somebody behind you blowing them horn, your automatic response, which many will say is a natural response, right, is to get upset. That's a natural. So even when you think about it, sometimes you're having the conversations with people, like when I was in this class, we were just having the conversation and somebody said robot taxi, and you literally see people's face and them just start screwing, them just get vexed, and it's just a thing. And so your brain is already programmed to have a trigger, a negative triggered response to just the thought of being in traffic with a robot taxi driver, right? Your brain just naturally have that thought process. And so what that means is that you have to now reprogram it by training it to realize that that's not how I'm perceiving this situation anymore, because the trigger is based on your perception. Your perception is essentially an opinion that you have about something, an opinion, a strong opinion that you have formed. It's probably even close to a belief that you have created about someone or something. And so once that happens, your perception of this thing becomes the story of your life. And it happens not just with taxi drivers and bad drivers and people that blow them horn for no reason in your mind. It also happens with your job, how you perceive your boss, how you perceive that coworker that is toxic or that maybe just struggling with stuff and doesn't know how to process it. The way that your perception works is that it can either ruin your life experience or it can really, really make it an amazing life experience. And that's the distinction that you can create when you are in a situation that usually triggers you. Your perception is either going to be ruin or it's going to be rescue. It's either going to be powerful for you or it's going to paralyze you. So which side do you want your perception to be on? Do you want it to be on the powerful side where it's giving you power? Or do you want it to be on the paralyzed side where it's paralyzing you? Do you want your perception to ruin your day or to rescue your day? That's the power that you have in your hands about how you perceive the situations and circumstances that are in your life. So if we're going with my current example that I was sharing with you guys, right? If we're going with that example of the taxi situation, when a robot taxi driver bad drive you on the road, this is how it can ruin your day, right? If your perception is, I cannot stand this robot taxi driver. Oh my gosh, them just always do this. And them just create pure havoc in the world. And them just horrible and them not have no sense, and it's because them stupid why the way them drive, son. If that is your perception that comes alive, it can ruin your day in a number of ways. It can, first of all, make you respond by driving down the taxi driver, getting out of your car, and maybe getting in an accident or something that could put your life or the lives of others at risk, right? It could have you get so upset that you decide to you go and bad drive them, and then it creates a problem for you. You are the one that gets into an accident. It could ruin your day by you just being in this horrible mood, and you just end up at work or at school or wherever it is that you are heading, and you just upset the entire day. You just vexes, you're just crossed, and you know that once your energy start to flow in a particular way, everything going just follow it. So that's how having the negative perception, can ruin your day, can ruin your week, can ruin your month. Imagine being in a situation like that where you're literally just experiencing this so much that you keep attracting it, and that's literally like your life. And every day of your life, you're just miserable because of the robot taxi. Some people literally have that experience, guys. Trust me. Right? So there is that option, okay, the ruin option. And then you have the next option, which is the rescue option. Your perception can rescue you. And the way that it can rescue is if you apply a powerful perception, a powerful perspective to the situation. A couple of ways that it can happen. Same example. Robot taxi driver, bad drive you, cut you off, open them doors, somebody run across the road, and you're sat there and you feel the upset rising up. You can, first of all, see the upset. You can see upset before it reaches out. Once somebody brings it to your attention, you can see it before you react to it, right? So you see the upset because say, robot taxi drivers get me upset, and so I know it's coming. You're going to say, see it there? But then your perception can shift to, I really want to have a great day today. And so I'm going to just know that this taxi driver has somewhere really important to be. He's really just trying to make the money enough because he knows I'm going to have to just pay a certain amount, and so he have to make XYZ over it. And so he's trying to make a living just like me. And so I'm just going to pray for that taxi driver. Another P. I just going to pray for him. I just going to bless him up. Send him on him way. I just going to bless him up. Right? So you can shift to a positive perception of blessing somebody on their way so that you don't ruin your day. Instead, you rescue yourself and you rescue every experience you're going to have for the rest of the day. So that's one way that you can shift that negative perception to a positive perception. Let me just bless up this person so that they have some safety, because I know they're just trying to make a living. Another way that you can shift the perception is you can be like, I really want to get to where I'm going safely. So this is a sign that I should just take it easy and just slow it down. Just take my time. I know that I'm running a little behind for work today, but let me just pick up the phone and just call somebody and let them know. Let me just call somebody and let them know I'm running a little behind and not get into the rally with this robot taxi driver. So you are the person that has the power to make perception negative or positive. And the only way that perception can rescue you and give you that power is if you shift from the trigger approach, if you shift from the ruin towards something more positive. And in your life, this happens all the time. This happens with your love life. This happens with your relationship with your kids. This happens with your relationship with your parents. Boy, I know some mommies say, boy, I can't take that in because it's our perception of the experience we're going to have with those persons. And don't get me wrong, guys. I'm not saying that you can control how the other person show up. No, you cannot. Sometimes you just have to take away yourself because you are the only person that you can control. You cannot control the awareness level of the taxi driver. You can't. Sometimes you can't even control the awareness level of the parent, because that is just that's their stuff that they got to deal with. That's their inside stuff that they got to deal with. You got to deal with your perception and whether it's going to ruin you or rescue you from the situation that you're in. It is the only thing you can control. And so to save you and your mind and your stress level and your anxiety level, and in some cases your bank account, because you decide to ever chase down these people and drive them off of the road like how them bad drive you, to save that from happening, simple sauce. Simple sauce. You just focus your attention on the type of experience you have. And if you can't even think about the experience you want to have, you just say, you know what, let me just say like a positive prayer right now. Let me say a word of affirmation. Let me bless the people them as them go, because I know that I want to get to where I'm going safely. So I'm not going to stress out myself. When it comes to your love partner, which I know for many of us, it's a very triggering experience to somebody that you're in space with, you're not always going to be lovey-dovey. And so maybe it's best for you to just go within and manage yourself and then have a sit-down conversation. When you know that something triggers you, you can choose to perceive it differently. You ever experience something where you think somebody don't like you? I've experienced that. And it was perception. Because of how this person is, them have this thing with women, them call it BRF or RBF. Resting bitch face. We call it resting bad face if we can't use the other B word, right? So you have a resting face that just look vexed. It just look like you're vexed with everybody, right? And maybe somebody new you meet or somebody that work in the same building, and you just see them all the time and they just always look vexed and just always look miserable, right? Them face just look like it just stay made up. Them just look, you know what I mean? You probably have that family member that always look vexed. And because you know how them stay, you just know them really nice underneath it all. But then when you go to work and you see this person, you don't really have a relationship with them, but you see them look vexed all the time. And so your perception is, oh my gosh, them just miserable. But then now, maybe you find out that they lost a child or a loved one, or they have a lot of stress, and they carry it on them face. Or maybe you encounter the person in like the lunchroom and they offer you some, would you like a cup of tea? And you're like, oh, them nice and can talk, them can be pleasant, and it surprises you, right? And then you realize that, boy, so them didn't really stay for true. I just somebody think them did stay. And maybe in a conversation with somebody, and I must say, somebody can't take that girl, she just always look back. And I say, so them really nice. As some used to think. And then we talk to her and she offer me something, or she see my van broke down and she stop and she pick me up. Like, it's perception. And you always have the power to shift a negative perception to a positive perception. And because you are the one with that power, you can't look external to control other people, because they may never shift, but you can shift. And that is how you use the power of perception to rescue you from situations that normally would have upset you and make you want to beat up some people. It's not easy to execute, but it's easy to understand. So I am wishing you this week that as you go out, that you use this newfound power to help you with how you manage yourself and how you manage your relationship with other people. And before we leave, we're going to pick a card, because we always like to pick an intention card so that you guys can leave out and have a powerful experience. And you can use your mind to help to guide your thoughts. Ooh, look at this now. This is the perfect card for the conversation we just had about perception. So the intention of the card says, I live in an unhurried state. I live in an unhurried state. I melt into the natural flow of life, trusting that I have all that I need for the ups and downs that will come. Isn't that the perfect card for what we just talked about, guys? We literally just talked about the power of perception and how you are the person that can navigate when you have to deal with these triggers. We use the robot taxi man as the example, and then the card that we pull tells us that we are accepting the natural flow of life and that we have everything we need to navigate the ups and downs. So I wish you guys an extraordinary Saturday. I wish you guys an extraordinary week. And I hope that you can lean into this intention of living in an unhurried state and using the power of perception to positively impact your everyday. Thank you so much for joining Tea Time, guys. I hope you enjoyed your cup of tea while you were with me. And I will see you next time on another Saturday where we're going to be talking all things life transformation, mindset transformation. Let go the stress and enjoy your life. Take care, everybody. See you then.